Hi, everyone.
Welcome to another episode
of Historia, the podcast.
I am Jamie.
I'm Kylie.
And it is cooling down finally.
Finally, this is our fourth episode of the night. It's finally getting dark out, which means the sun is gone.
Thank God.
Because if you forget, I do not have AC. So it's always a fun time.
You guys get a great view of Pikes Peak.
Yeah, it is a really nice view. You can just watch the sunset, or it doesn't really set, but over here, but it is cool to see the mountains. Right now.
It's a pretty view. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know all we get is just freaking motorcyclists going down our hill. Fucking hate it.
Yeah.
It's so loud. But
this road is actually busier than I thought it'd be. Like, why are so many people driving down this road?
Because nobody wants to take the main roads, so they take the back roads.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I guess I am too. Anyway, we're here with another episode. I don't know what Jamie's talking about, but I'm sure it's awesome.
So, are we ready?
I think we are. I think we're ready to just jump on in.
Jump on in.
Dive on in.
This one is serious, a little bit more serious.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. Today we are discussing a part of history that is a lot different than what we have discussed previously on this podcast.
Oh, God, now I'm scared. Is it a war?
No.
Oh.
Not even close.
Is it a war?
I believe I have previously talked on the topic about what we're discussing briefly about like an interest that I had that I wanted to cover, but I didn't know when I wanted to, but I am finally going into detail about such. So in college, I not only studied history, but I also spent a good majority of my college life researching sociology.
Yeah.
So the topic today tested people to an extent, and the outcome was appalling. What I'm going to speak about today, you may have heard it. I'm sure most people have to an extent, or have seen the movie at least. I have not seen the movie. I was going to watch it, but I decided not to let my perception be deceived by what I found in my research. Just like looking it up to compare to like the movie. So today we are discussing the Stanford prison experiment.
Oh!
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited.
Yes, we briefly discussed this in one of my research methods class because this is a highly talked about experiment study that really changed the psychology and sociology world.
Wow.
Especially with researching, it really discusses morality from the perspective of the psychologist and everything. Oh. So it's a very, it's very heavy. I was so intrigued. I was just like, the last 3 days, I've just been pounding out this research and looking. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy. So sociology and psychology are one of the most intriguing topics, and this particular experiment is so famous because of the behavior individuals can possess when authorized with power. If you're not familiar with psychology and sociology and you're like, what the hell is the difference between the two? Psychology kind of focuses more on the brain behavior and like what happened, like what is going on in your head and just how it affects you as a person, whereas sociology is more of like behavior in society.
How it affects others kind of thing.
Exactly, like your interactions with other people, how that like affects. And I absolutely fell in love with sociology because I find it very intriguing on how we function in society. And that's why I'm very interested in a lot of like specific wars and stuff, because it's like, how did they get to this point of time through their behavior, like what anger and stuff. And that's where like there's so much sociology going on with like Napoleon Bonaparte and a lot of psychology because of like his behavior of how he acted resulted in the behaviors of others and what caused all these wars and stuff.
Yeah.
And what would soon lead to his exile.
Gotcha.
So that's why I thought sociology and history were great to study in college, because you get the best of both worlds.
Definitely.
Because you learn the historical side of it and events and whatnot, but then you also get to understand like their behavior side of it, of like their reactions and stuff. But this one is definitely more psychological for this particular experiment study, but it's also sociological to the extent of their behavior changes.
Gotcha.
So within like the society and like what the prison that they create. The
Hi.
Hi. Yes. Hello.
Can you get you a Kong?
You were so cute. You were so cute. So the psychologist behind this idea is Philip G. Zimbardo. At the time of the experiment, he was a professor at Stanford University, but currently is working as a professor at Palo Alto University. He's also doing some other work as well, but I just wanted to mention that he is no longer there.
Gotcha.
Zimbardo in his studies focuses a lot on the behavior of an individual and the dark side of it. For further explanation, his interest is in the development of what now causes a person to go mad, or where aggression is formed. This focus is on how good people can turn to engage in violent interactions. So what is the cause of that? How can that be developed? You see that in a lot of his studies, because that's
fascinating.
Yeah, that's what he focuses on. This will make more sense when we get further into experiment of like why he chose this and what he did. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to say that this week's episode, I got the information from... What?
My watch just thinks I'm talking to him again.
Oh my God. So creepy. So I got the information from prisonexp.org. This website covers pretty much everything on the experiment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on the website, even including photographs from the experiment and any videos. It's crazy, because this was in the 70s.
Dang.
And they were able to have all of this. Like, it really went into depth, and it's just, it's really good, because like the website it also covers Zimbardo's just like history and like his professional history and whatnot. So if you want to learn a little bit more about him, that's where you can find it. Hi.
You want it?
Can I help you, baby?
I love her so much.
Hi. Hello there. I know. You're just a little pup. I know.
I'm gonna kick you out again, baby, but you can't be in our biz.
She's like, why not? I know. You got such a cute head.
You just want love. I know. Okay, back on.
All right, so if you want to get a little bit more research about this experiment, the study, just you want to see the photography, videos, just forewarn that like there are some that do reflect abuse and stuff, and that's why I'm giving a warning right now, because it is a very tough study experiment. It does reflect mental abuse, physical abuse, and just flat out crazy shit that people do.
Gotcha.
So, well, let's get into it. Like most psychologists, research and experiments is how you get notoriety in the community and how you keep a job, but also to make a difference in the world. Like that should be your foremost biggest thing, is to make a difference. That you want to see, like, why do people do the things that they do? How can we make a difference? And for him, it was like, why do people just who are good people, like, why do they change for the bad? And so he wanted something different. Now, he decided that it would be a good example. He believed that would be a good test would be in the setting of a prison, Because even though someone is going to a prison doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. But a lot of times he's like, bad people can come out of prison still. So he was very curious on how this would result, but he couldn't just do like a study in a prison. He wanted to get like actual proof and to do his own study for that. So to get the best of his results, and because he worked at Stanford, he would use male college students as his subjects. So he decided, well, I'm going to create my own prison and I'm going to use college students to do that. Because, I mean, they're just average Joes. I think they were all of like different nationalities, but they were all mostly like middle income. But he just wanted to use males because that was like the predominant in prisons were males.
Gotcha.
Now, in order to get the attention to make this experiment as real as possible, Zimbardo would go to the extreme to make the environment as real as possible. He would even go the lengths out to reaching to an ex-convict that was behind bars for over a decade to get the idea of what a prisoner idea would be like. This convict would also be a part of the experiment at one point. He would be part of their parole board. He would be like the head of that, and he completely lost reality just like everybody else.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Yeah, like a guy who was actually in jail for over a decade.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. This would include also where they would stay. Like, where are you going to have your prison? You can't just like take over a prison for however long that you needed this experiment. Like, you have to think of something of like, how are you going to make this as real as possible? Zimbardo would make his life like a prison, would make his like whole thing like a prison in the basement of the psychology department building. And he would board up the lab rooms to create it like cells. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So if you go to like, if I'm sure everybody has, or most people have been through like colleges, like the lab rooms are not very big.
Right.
So it was like a perfect size for a cell. And he was like,
wow.
Let's do this. Well, there was a corridor that people labeled as prisoners would be able to go that they called the yard. So there was also a corridor. I don't think they used it that often. And do most of their activities outside the cells. I don't think that happened either. Now, the cells were created from the lab rooms. The doors would be removed and they would replace the doors with steel bars and even add numbers to the now cell to add realism to the experiment. So it wasn't just like a full, when I was looking at the pictures, I was thinking before I saw the pictures that it was like literally just like bars.
Yeah.
But no, it was like still the door, but like where the window is,
bars to cover it.
It would put bars. And then right next to it, they would put the number of the cell.
Wow.
So I believe they had 2 or 3 cells because it's not a very big area.
I feel like this is like when we trap Sims into one little room and hide the window and door.
It's literally that experiment to see how they would react. Like Sims is just like a whole like story, like a whole study without having the moral like conscience of like, is this right?
Just to watch them go crazy, you know? But like this is, I can't believe that this is something that actually happened.
It actually happened.
That's wild.
Now, Zimbardo was going to play the role as superintendent, but he couldn't be down with the guards and prisoners at all times observing. That would taint the study because all the guards would try to be goody-goody. Like the superintendent isn't going to follow around guards and like the wardens all day.
Yeah.
They were the ones that you went to when you were having a problem.
Yeah.
Like you're the big guy and that's who he was supposed to be. He would get really into this role. Yes.
Of course.
For it being 1971, the technology they had was pretty high tech to really get the full perception of the study. Because there was not a lot going on in 1971, but he got pretty good access to some pretty good technology for the time. Cameras would be on each end of the hallways to capture how the study was going, because the hallways were like the main area that they would go to, and then they would have just like kind of cameras like facing in the cells and whatnot, just to see how it was going. And they also had recorders just to know what was going on and like if anything was like problematic and stuff. They would have the voiceovers for that.
Gotcha.
They also removed any clocks and boarded up any in all windows to add the isolation of a prisoner.
Holy shit.
This would become very problematic later on. This decision would come with a cost for the participants. Bugs like tamper bugs and stuff, not like actual bugs.
Yeah. Would also be
planted through their intercom system in the cells so that they could hear what the prisoners were saying. So this is I don't know how it is like in actual prisons because I haven't been in one. So I don't know if they have cameras in every single cell or if they have, because I feel like that could be used against like if they.
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
I wonder if they just have like a main camera where you can like
look into both.
Right.
Yeah. I really have no idea. If any of you have been in jail, please let me know.
Yeah. If you know the camera system, we'd love to hear it. God.
So they would put bugs in. Zimbardo wanted to know everything that was going on because he was a psychologist of the study. He wanted to know how everything was going so he could write it in his paper later on. To be like, this is how they reacted, because I wasn't there, but I have the proof to be like, this is how they reacted to such and such.
Yeah.
Now, the closet space that they had down in the basement, this would become the solitary confinement area, which they called the hole. This would become a very popular area. Now that Zimbardo had his prison set up, he needed his test subjects. Like how most studies are conducted and advertisements are made that attracts people to participate. This was actually an extra credit thing that we could have done in my psychology class. She was like, if you participate in a certain study, I will give you extra credit.
You better give me more than that. Yeah. Depends on how intense it is, but
a lot of them were like little basic ones.
Yeah.
Just to
nothing like this.
No. They were like maybe for like a couple hours or something, or getting like your perception on certain stuff. Like she provided like a whole list of different ones that were going on, because a lot of, if you're going to get like a doctorate degree in psychology or like sociology and stuff, and you're doing a research paper, you want to present that, you want to get those test subjects. So you're going to put out those advertisements to be like, hey, I'll give you like $15 if you do this.
Right.
And like a lot of people, like especially college students, they're going to do that because they need the money.
Right. And they may not realize how big of a thing it is, for this type of thing. Like, you can, false advertisement.
I mean, for this one, like it looked pretty good. This one specifically was to give volunteers $15 a day to participate. And at the length was to go for 1 to 2 weeks.
15 a day.
But you have to think it's 1971.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, and they thought it was not going to be that bad, that they just were going to be pretty much held up in a prison. They didn't think it was going to get to the extent that it did. They thought it would be a little bit more reformed, a little bit more just...
Yeah, like they're less torture-y, more...
Yeah. Well, because there was no really like given rules, whereas like if you're working at an actual prison, you're going to be trained. You're going to be taught, well, you only have such. And of course, some people are going to take advantage of that and still take to the extent. Those people should never be in power. Some of them are. But like they didn't think that it was going to go to this length. They thought it was just going to be some menial study.
Yeah.
And to get money out of it for 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, I don't even know how you would find time to do this for 2 weeks.
But I know. That's what I was thinking.
But then again, it was like in early August. So they may have still been in summer, like right before school started.
Sent them there early.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
So it's just, it really got me thinking. I was like, you know what? I remember that in college that we could have done that. Like, there's so many studies that you can do, like sleep studies and whatnot.
Yeah.
This one was a little different. So 70 people would answer to the advertise.
Oh my God.
Yeah, people wanted that money. But it was decided that only 24 of them would be used for the study. They decided on which men to use by checking their health, intelligence, and that they were mostly middle class, the average Joe. So they wanted to make sure that they were mentally stable to be able to do something like this. That
right.
Their health was fine.
Because then there's not another changing factor.
Exactly. And all of them had that. Like, there were no red flags. So it's just like, that makes your research even more just like questioning of just like, what is going on here? Like, just the average person, perfectly normal, perfectly healthy, didn't have like any symptoms of like extreme aggression or anything. How this could have happened. With the test subjects decided, it was now time to decide on who was going to be a guard and who was going to be a prisoner.
Oh, okay.
They would use the flip of a coin to split the men into two groups and at random chosen to be a guard or a prisoner. So pretty much they would split these people in groups and they would flip a coin. They'd be like, okay.
So 6
heads.
guards.
Yeah. So
6 prisoner. Oh, wait. No, there's 24.
Yeah. So
12.
there was like, 12. So they were like, okay, so half of you, we're going to flip a coin. Your guard, your prisoner.
Yeah.
So they split it down in half. So like this was no like factor of like, oh, this person had this personality trait, so we're going to put him in this. Literally. And it's so odd, like the odds, like you can't make it more undecided. Pretty much like you're just like, because even when you're like choosing yourself, you're always going to have that bias. So using literally a flip of a coin, you can't have that bias.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's just that, like...
Makes sense, yeah.
The odds. Oh, my thing is freaking out. So, the decision to... after the decision was made on who was who, they were all let go and the experiment started to begin. So, they pretty much... after, like, doing the flip a coin, they're like, oh, so you're going to be the guards... You're going to be the prisoners. They gave them like a little rundown of like, so the guards are going to be the ones that are going to put you in your cells, pretty much like just check on you, make sure that you're staying in line, Like they made it so like lighthearted that it wasn't like they didn't really fear anything going into it. And the prisoners were like, yeah, whatever, like we'll do it. Like I'm getting paid for this. Like that was their thought. They're like, I'm getting paid to do this dude's study. So like, and then it didn't really go into full detail of like what kind of, if Zimbardo did tell him of like the instructions of like, this is how it's going to happen. Like, this is what could happen. Like he didn't tell them anything because he wanted it to be anonymous.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want them to like have that set in mind of like, oh, well, we're going into this to expect this, and this. Like it was going to be completely just random, just like a normal prisoner would be. Same with like a guard. Like you're now labeled as a guard.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where I think a lot of them in that like day or so of them decide of like being labeled as like a guard. I think that was just like, oh, I'm a guard.
Yeah.
So I think that like form of power started to set in, but not to an extent.
Gotcha.
So August 14th, the local city police would make their rounds to all of the participants' homes that were labeled as prisoners. So actual city cops came by and arrested all of them.
Oh, just to play along?
Yeah, like an actual arrest.
Wow. Did they know that was going to happen?
No.
Oh, okay.
So they literally showed up at their house, banged on their door, freaking, like, if they didn't answer, they broke in, and they dragged them out, like, guided them out, set them, like, on top, like, forward, like, their body on top of, like, the cop car.
Yeah.
Like, their upper half, and handcuffed the back of them.
Oh, my God, okay.
And if you're a neighbor, you're probably like, what the fuck is going on to little Jimmy? He's like
he
a 20-year-old.
just about to go to college.
Yeah, he's going to college to Stanford. What is going on? But yeah, they put them, so they cuffed them, put them in the cop car, and drove them to like the county jail.
Wow.
Yeah, they wanted this as real as much as they could. And they wanted that effect because this immediately put shock into the prisoners of like, what the hell is going on? Because that's what actually happens, of just like these good people or just people who could have done like something bad or whatever getting that arrest. And they're just like, a lot of them are innocent, and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, this is really bad. Each prisoner was taken in one at a time and presented with the warden and the superintendent and told their offenses, and now being told they were now prisoners. So they made up just like complete BS offenses that they did of just like, oh, well, you were caught in theft, or you were
they just made
doing
things up.
yeah, they were doing something that was like enough to get you like time in prison, like actual serious time in prison. And they were telling you of what you did. Like, you can't just be like, no, I didn't do that. Da, da, da. It's like, because at first you're like, oh, I got to play along because like this is what I have to do. Like,
I probably get to a point where I'm like, did I actually do that?
Well, that's what they started to think.
Yeah.
Because you're put into a situation where you're being told, not like notoriously, like all the time, you did this, you did this.
Yeah.
You're a prisoner. You're a prisoner. Like, your mind is a fickle thing. It's going to start believing that.
Oh, for sure.
Because, I mean, perceptions like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were no longer test subjects, but prisoners.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. The prisoners would then be taken into cop cars, what was labeled as the Stanford County Jail again, and they were blindfolded. They had no idea that anything like this would be occurring. They were in a state of shock. Each prisoner was taken in one at a time to the next area, and they were now brought into like where the psychology department is. So they were brought down there. They were just like, you are now a prisoner. We're going to take you into like your cell. Get you ready. So after all, they were brought in and told they were prisoners. The guards would begin to play their roles. So now it wasn't just Zimbardo as a superintendent or the warden who was a undergrad student that he used. They were no longer, he played his role really well too. He lost a sense of reality.
Dang.
They all did. But pretty much after they told them like, hey, you're prisoners now, got used to it, they brought in the guards. All the guards were just ready to play their roles.
Oh God.
Yeah, because they were just like, we're guards, we got the power, we're gonna be in charge of all of you, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
So at first there are, I think I mentioned this later in my notes, but I'm just gonna make a point now. There were 24 of those being used for this study, and 12 of them were guards, 12 of them are prisoners, but they were only using 9 at a time. There were 3 that were always on call, just in case if something happened.
Oh. Okay.
And then the guards had to work in shifts, because that's how it always worked. So 3 would work in the morning, 3 would work in the afternoon, and then 3 would work in the evening.
Okay.
And then the prisoners would be split up.
Gotcha.
So this search would include, so they started to do playing their roles, the guards, and they would take the prisoners into the hall, and they had them all stripped naked and to be searched. This search would include being sprayed by intense water, and their reasoning for this was to remove any germs and lice. This was a humiliation tactic that actually happens in real prisons, or happened in real prisons. I don't know if they do this anymore. I hope not, because Zimbardo actually took this idea from a Texas prison.
Oh, wow. Of course, Texas.
So, yeah. So he did his history, or like his research before.
Yeah.
He went to, before he went to all these lengths. So after being sprayed and searched, the prisoners were then presented with their uniforms, and they would be issued for the study. So they all had to wear certain uniforms. This uniform is not used in actual prisons, but behind the clothing decision was another humiliation tactic to make the prisoner feel inferior. So, because like what we know is that prisoners they make them wear like those jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Like orange jumpsuits.
Yeah. What?
Oh, I thought that was your phone went off again. Freaked me out, man. So they thought that that's what it was. Sorry, that completely threw me off.
I was like, what are you staring at? I got really scared.
I don't know, your phone scared me. But so they would So in normal prisons, yeah, they wear like the jumpsuits. Some are like, I think for like county jails, so they wear the black and white stripes, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think for like
I don't know the difference between
maximum prisons, they wear the orange. Because you have like county jails that are like, oh, you did like this offense, you're going to be staying in here for a little bit. And then you have just like your state prisons.
Yeah.
And then you have maximum prison, which is like you had to have done the shadiest shit.
Yeah, because you always see like serial killers in the orange ones.
Yeah. But like, because here in Colorado, we have the maximum security prison up in Canyon City.
Yeah.
And that is where the Unabomber is. Mm-hmm. And where the Holmes guy who did the Aurora shooting.
Yep.
That's where he is too. And they're like, so you have to do like some bad shit to go to the Canyon City. And it's crazy because when you're driving to Canyon City, there is a sign that says do not pick up hitchhikers, because they will. And it did that. It said, we passed by one in Oklahoma, and it said that too.
Wow.
It says do not pick hitchhikers, they could be dangerous.
Wow. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never picking up a hitchhiker in that area.
No, never.
So don't even try to hitchhike.
I don't think I ever would anywhere.
No, after watching all those true crimes, no thank you.
Yeah, I've heard too many stories.
No thank you. So the prisoners would actually be given a smock, and they had to wear this at all times with no underwear. So it was just like this big like hospital smock thing that was like thick.
Why aren't they allowed underwear? Just to make them more uncomfortable?
Yeah, humiliation.
Fun.
I would be absolutely livid. I would throw a fit. I'd be like, I'm done. I don't even want my $15.
Right. That's, to me, that's not worth it.
So on the front and back of the smock, the prisoner number would be on it. So they each were assigned a different number. The complete removal of one's name would be made. And through the study, the men were not mentioned by name, but mentioned by number. Mm-hmm. So they are no longer a person when it comes to your name, because that gives you too much independence. Yeah. Too much individuality. Like, you're a number. You're not a person. So this was another tactic to have the prisoners feel small and insignificant to the situation. They're like, the only way that you could really participate without being kicked out, make sure you go by your number. Mm-hmm. Another article that would be placed on the prisoner was a chain on their ankle. This was to represent a reminder that they were trapped. This was only a study. They could have dropped out whenever they wanted to, even though they really couldn't at that point.
Yeah, it's too far in.
Yeah. But, well, you can, in a study, you can drop out at any time. But in this particular one, they believed that they couldn't.
Oh, okay. Just by the mind trick.
Yeah, by my psychology, like they believed that they couldn't do it. Zimbardo even believed that they couldn't leave.
That's crazy.
He had to be reminded of how fucked up this situation is. Yeah, so it's crazy. With the prisoners now receiving their clothing and titles by number, it was now for the guards to take charge. Now, with this study, it was to see in this setting how these men would react with control and how far they could go. I'm sure there was other meanings that like they didn't really explain in the article that I read, of just like, it didn't really give a why he really wanted to cover it, but it's his interest in psychology of what he wants to cover and kind of discover. But he wanted to see like the behavior of them, of like, these are good men. Mm-hmm. In a situation like a prison, for both setting of a prisoner and of a guard, how do they react? Yeah. If they get pushed to, like, the guards have this ultimate freedom, how are they going to react to these prisoners? And these prisoners are feeling escalated, like, how far are they willing to go? Mm-hmm. And a prison is a good example to see how a good person will go bad, because it looks at both perspectives of someone who is having full control and power and another one who has no power and no control. And how can, like, will both of them or neither of them go to those extreme lengths to show aggression, anger, violence? And as fucked up as this study is and what it became, it is very interesting, and it is a good setting to use.
Yeah.
They just didn't do good execution.
Yeah, it's a little too intense.
It's very intense.
Or they should have just kept it short, like a couple days. But they would never.
I'm just going to flat out and tell you this. It lasted 6 days.
Oh. But it was supposed to be a week.
2 weeks.
They just couldn't handle anymore. No. Oh, God. Okay.
6 days.
What day are we on? 1?
Yeah. This is day 1.
I'm stressed. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard it was intense, but I never knew the deets.
Yeah, it is very sad. So, where am I? Lost my spot. Why did I lose my spot? Sorry, it calms me down. So, also, a nylon stocking. So, going further into their apparel, a nylon stocking would also be made for all prisoners to wear to cover their hair. The reason behind this was that in prisons during this time, I don't think they do it now, men's hair are shaved to remove any identity of individuality as well. Remove the name, remove the hair. You're just a basic white guy.
You're a bald baby.
Bald baby. That's exactly what I was thinking. So everything had to be shaved, mustache, everything. But they didn't do that for this study because you couldn't really make them. That's why they had to wear the nylon stockings.
Yeah.
So now with this study, it was to see, we were seeing in this study, in this setting of just where they're going, they got their looks, they got clean, they got searched, cleaned, quote unquote. So now the guards were ready to take control. And the guards had no training whatsoever. So
That's wonderful.
So when they were having their little open house and everything of just hey, you're a guard now. Here's your stuff.
You're powerful.
Yeah. They didn't give them any more training. This is not how you handle this situation.
God.
This is not how you handle this situation. They literally were free range.
Oh, shit.
You're a guard. Be good. Do whatever. So that was a very dangerous thing for them to do.
Yeah.
A regular guard in this case, but this is not normal. But Zimbardo wanted to see how the men as guards would handle this situation of complete freedom. He wanted to see these good men, see if they can still be good as guards with no attachment to this is what you have to do, with no rules. He wanted to see hey, are you still going to be good and do right things and protect your prisoners, make sure that they're healthy and everything. And are you going to do it with respect, or is there going to be a means to violence and anger and stuff that leads to something? He was just curious to see where it was at that point. The warden for the study, as I said before, was an undergrad for the school and would supervise the guards. So instead of Zimbardo being down there and kind of doing his own thing and being a part of it, he had his warden do it for him. He would tell all the guards the importance of the mission. So he did tell them, this is a very important mission. This is a job that you do. You got to make sure the prisoners are good and stay in line. So that was the only thing they were told. And they took that as their own personal Bible.
Jesus.
They're yes. Yes, sir. Now the guards had to take matters into their own hands and make sure they were differentiated themselves from the prisoners. The guards would be dressed in khakis, had a whistle, a police club, and would wear mirrored glasses.
Oh my God.
So aviators. They wanted to make sure the prisoners would not be able to see their emotions or anything that was going on behind their straight face. Couldn't even see the anger. They couldn't see anything that was going on.
Okay.
They couldn't reflect off of that. In the beginning of the study, there would be 9 guards and 9 prisoners, as I mentioned briefly. The rest they decided to use to be labeled as on-call. As I said, if they had a bigger area, I'm sure they would have fit more in it.
Right.
The cells that they used were pretty small in size. The room would only be able to hold 3 cots, and the rest for little for little movement for they did. There was nothing that they could do. They could just sit up, sit. They they could maybe stand, but they couldn't actually like move around their cells like a normal prison. Mm-hmm. Like you were with 2 other guys.
Wow. In
a small little dinky cell. Like that will drive you insane.
Oh yeah.
Where am I? God, why do I keep losing my place? I just need to zoom in a little bit more. So the room would only be able to hold the 3 little cots. Now you think that this is study there was supposed to be 1 to 2 weeks long, and the guards would ease into the role, but no, they started off super strong. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna end this episode here.
Oh my god, leaving us on a cliffhanger like that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to build the experiment, tell everybody like, or share just like how they started off, how it was developed, how they set it up, but like the next episode, you guys, is going to be intense.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's going to be freaking crazy. It's going to be intense.
Okay. So. This is really kicking off spooky season.
It is, because it's like end of September. This will be
September, yeah. Next episode will be like end of September-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So. All right, well, we'll see you next week. To cry. Just kidding.
Where can you find us?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Historia the Podcast, and you can email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com. So stay tuned, because we have a crazy episode next week, apparently.
Yes, it's going to get legit wild.
Okay. We'll all be stressed together. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.